Hello and welcome everyone. I don't know why the audio is not working. Let's find out. Wait a second. I need to sort this thing out first. All right. It's done. It's done. Okay. So here we are. One more week passes by, and let's see what does the world have for us. Usually, information is circulated with the primary objective of shaping a narrative, molding the way of how people think in a country. And if you really think this is a very complicated thing, because you never know what piece of information is correct, what piece of information is simply a distractor from you to not find out what exactly is going on. So there are people in the top echelons of these companies who have been doing this for years, and they know how to mold and manipulate opinion of people. And especially right before the elections, these people really know how to uh, you know change the way how we think. Okay, so let's start off. What does these things have for us? Hmm, here. Okay. I don't want to start with this piece of information. We will move on to mm, mm, oh, yes. The preparation is underway at the Rashtrapati Bhavan for the swearing in ceremony of Mr. Modi. He is scheduled to take the oath today in the evening at 7:15. There is an elaborate ceremony to be organized at Rashtrapati Bhavan. The president has already invited him over to formally stake claim for forming a government. I would say it's not exactly a very thin margin that the NDA holds. It does have a considerable majority, but one of its partners, that is JDU, is considered to be slightly tricky, and we never know on which side, uh, you know, on which side do their loyalties lie. Because even though the person claims to be changed, you can never ignore their tendencies that they have had in the past. And it's, let's face it, this is politics. In politics, you never know on which side someone's loyalty changes. All right. Now, there is a very interesting statement that was given out by the current chief minister of West Bengal, that is Mamta Banerjee. I really want to know what is going on inside her head, because she has been giving some controversial statements right from the beginning of the election season. Now I get it. Her rivals, that is BJP, are her rivals, but you cannot simply, you know, you cannot just simply sit there and make statements that you think, okay, these are all right. Let's see. I'm just hoping that my voice is pretty much clear on the stream, because I don't know if the mic is properly connected or not. Okay. Just let me just quickly see what else is going on. Yep. It's here. It's here. Okay. It should be pretty much audible right now to you guys. I'm hoping. Okay. Yes, so there has been a statement by Mamata Banerjee, and I'm quoting her verbatim. This is not something that I'm making up. It is already out there in the public domain. Many of the other newspapers might also have covered it. Her exact statement was, I apologize, but I cannot extend my best wishes to an unconstitutional, illegal party to form a government. Now, these politicians usually have people who write their speeches. It is usually somebody from the IAS or somebody from the state PCS services who writes speeches from them, because these politicians, uh, uh, yeah. So this is a statement given from a sitting chief minister of a major state in our country, and yeah, I really don't understand how how is the NDA unconstitutional government, and how is it an illegal party. So yeah, if if she would care to give out the reasons for why she thinks that India is an illegitimate and an unconstitutional party. I recall this incident from the past where it was, I guess it was LK Advani who made this statement from the floor of the parliament that Congress party was an illegitimate party, and Sonia Gandhi made sure that LK Advani issues a formal apology from the floor of the parliament. So I wonder what would happen this time around when it is Mamta Banerjee who has made such a statement. So it would be interesting to see what happens. Next up is the state of Chhattisgarh. All right. Seven Maoists were killed in an encounter with security forces in Bastar division. Okay, so state of Chhattisgarh has had this perennial problem of left wing extremism, and Maoism is one of the offshoots of communism. I would say it derives its core values from communism. However, it is shaped on the ideals of Mao Zedong. He was a Chinese revolutionary, apparently, who ushered in the Chinese communist era. Now, Maoism is Mao's take on communism. So, very recently, this Ministry of Home Affairs, okay, uh, they put out a Q&A on what exactly is communism, what exactly is Maoism. So let me just put that out on screen for everyone to refer here. All right. Okay. So if you look at this PDF is available on the Ministry of Home Affairs. If you just go to their website, you will find that this is available on their website. So this basically answers all the questions that a person who is not very much familiar with, you know, very much familiar with the ideology that is Maoism. So if you look here, okay, and the first question, what is Maoism? Basically, what they're trying to do is they want to snatch power away from the state. Okay, now for a while, take some time to understand power of the state is derived from the democratic exercise that is election. We have elections, people vote in the elections, so the legitimacy of the person who is occupying a democratic office, it comes from the people. Whereas Maoist people, they advocate that we need to snatch power from the state by any means possible. All right, now here is my profound dispute with the Maoism ideology. All right, as a citizen, as a citizen, you have some rights to protest against the policies of the state. Okay, that is agreed. But there are some manners, and there are some mediums, there are ways that you need to understand that some ways are plainly illegal and some ways are plainly legal. So in Maoism, there isn't a clear distinction between what is legal, what is illegal, what is ethical, what is not ethical. So According here, if you focus on this line, okay, Maoists also used propaganda and disinformation against state institutions as other components of their insurgency doctrine. All right. Now, Mao, the Mao Zedong, uh, who is supposedly, and in the, I would say, only limited to the mainland Chinese territory, he is called a revolutionary communist. So, according to him, this process is called People's War. Okay, meaning they are assuming that the entirety of the population is or is agreeing to their idea of rule of law, and hence they are calling it a People's War. All right, the central theme of Maoist ideology is obviously to snatch power with any means possible. For them, they justify violence based on. They justify violence. It glorifies violence. They have People's Liberation Guerrilla Army cadres, specifically trained. All of this. Okay, here, if you look at the last line over here, it says the CPIM, Maoist, and all its front organizations formations have been included in the list of banned terrorist organizations, and formations have been included in the list of banned terrorist. Yeah. So there is a law that is UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. It was promulgated in the year of 1967. So under that act, I would say CPIM, that is Communist Party of India Maoist, has been banned. But yeah, we do have people over there. This is the structure. I don't think this is helpful. Yep. What are front organizations? Now, this is something that I want you to focus upon. Okay. There is a phenomenon known as intellectual cover fire. Okay. So, whenever these guerrilla warfare techniques are practiced by the Maoists, and they manage to inflict some casualties on the state and the soldiers of the paramilitary forces, and so there are front organizations such as in the form of media houses, NGOs, and whatnot. So they will provide an intellectual cover fire for these actions that were committed by Maoists, and they will justify it. Here it is written over here. Is here. It says the functionaries of front organizations provide intellectual veneer to the inherent violence in the Maoist ideology. In other words, they sanitize the bloodletting and attempt to make the Maoist worldview palatable to the urban audiences and the media. So here you need to focus on the word urban audiences. All right, a person who is living in an urban area usually goes to work in an MNC or some corporate house. So he or she will leave their house by 9 in the morning and come back by 9 in the evening. All right, so they get their daily updates from social media platforms, internet. They browse through X in search of news. Now all the front organizations, NGOs, and whatnot, they will obviously have some or the other pages on social media. They have wide coverage over media houses as well. So they give this intellectual cover fire to people, to the acts that were committed by Maoists, and they make it palatable to urban audiences. So they will justify it based on that the state is somehow perpetrating violence. The state is not providing us with facilities that we want. Okay, yeah. So it's this belt that is Chhattisgarh, which states are considered to be live affected. Here it is: Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Bihar, severely affected. There are also other pockets in our country that are marginally affected. They are not too much affected. So here, if you see how many civilians have been killed by left-wing extremism, yes, Maoist people are supposed to be on the left side of the political spectrum. They occupy the left-wing extremist. So if you are at the center, so Maoist people are the people who profess the Maoist ideology. They belong to the extreme end of the left spectrum of political ideologies. So these are some statistics from the Ministry of Home Affairs. So if you look at over here, the number of civilians killed are obviously very high. In any conflict, I would say, regardless of who is right or who is wrong, civilian casualties are a big collateral damage of the war. Yeah, so if you see over here in 2015, somehow the numbers have come down. We don't have an exact data post 2015. Okay. Next, this is a very important question. Why do Maoists kill civilians? If you if you understand this very closely, okay, aren't they fighting people's war? So if they are fighting people's war, why are they exactly killing people? Something, yeah, something for you to think about. Okay, uh, why exactly are they you know why exactly are they killing people if they are fighting people's war? So the number one thing is people represent the democratic capital of a country, meaning uh, democracy is something that is non-living, but it exists in the form of a sentiment in the mind of the nationals. It is manifested through their voting exercise. It is manifested through their exercise of fundamental rights and whatnot. So people, in a way, are definitely, each individual is an ambassador of democracy, and by definition, the left liberals or the left wing extremists, they hate democracy. There are no two opinions about it. So people, as citizens, you represent as manifestation of democracy, and hence for them killing civilians is justified based on that they are uh, against their core ideology. So yeah, they also kill, here it is. um, all these killings lead to a, here, okay, they also kill people to create a power and governance vacuum in rural areas, and the space is filled by them. They also kill the so called class enemies. So they'll kill people, let's say they will kill a government authority in a state, and they will say that there is a governance vacuum over here, and we need to fill this space. And guess what? Who will be the person filling that space? Obviously, a Maoist. So that is how they justify killing civilians. Okay. Economic damage, yes, as well. There are many videos doing rounds on social media. You can see that how they destruct the property of the state. uh, Here are some statistics from Ministry of Home Affairs. Yeah, so it has led to a lot of considerable destruction. Next question that is very pertinent is, why do CPIM, or why do Maoist cadres have a lot of women? Okay, so there is this principle called military conscription. Okay, countries such as Israel, they have a mandatory military conscription, meaning if you are of a certain age, let's say 16 or 17, it is mandatory for you to serve in the armed forces of the nation that you are a national of. All right. Now Bharat, we also have a military conscription, but owing to our large population and a large nationalist sentiment, I would say that it has never been felt necessary to compel people to join armed forces. The voluntary participation is so high that we don't need to compel people to join the armed forces. But such is not the case with the Maoists. Okay, initially this ideology was very appealing to the people, but as and when democracy is still penetrating deeper into areas, people have managed to uh, disagree with this ideology, and not to be too proximate mentally, at least, with the ideology. So yeah, so these people, they look to recruit soldiers into their guerrilla forces, into their cadres. But when they go outside recruiting, so most parents do not want to part with their children. They usually take away their children and keep them as soldiers, and the child never meets their parents. So whenever faced with this situation, I would say parents, they here it is, it's not me who is quoting this. This is Ministry of Home Affairs. So People, I will highlight it again so people don't misconstrue it as something that is of my own opinion. Most parents do not want to part with their children, but faced with coercion and threats, many poor Adivasi parents prefer to part with the girl child. And hence, the Maoist cadres have a high population of women in their. Yep, this is an interesting document. If you are, if you want to dig a little bit deep about left wing extremism, this is a very fantastic read. You should definitely go through this material. But this is what I was. Yep, this is what I meant when I said that. This is what happens in the left wing extremist areas. All right, what do we have next for us? Let's see. United Nation includes Israel and Hamas as Israel and Hamas in its annual report on violations against children in armed conflict. Interestingly, Israel is the first democratic country to get to make its way into such a list. Hmm. So United Nations has included Israel and Hamas in list of shame, as in the other parties in such a list are groups and nations such as Russia, the Islamic State, Al Qaeda, Boko Haram, Afghanistan, Iraq, Myanmar, Somalia, Yemen, and Syria. The list itself indicates what sort of groups form a majority, or the ideology that they subscribe to. It's pretty much visible in this list. I do not make up this list. It is United Nations that has made up this list. There has been a sharp response from Prime Minister of Israel, that is Benjamin Netanyahu, and he has said, and I'm quoting his exact words: "The IDF is the most moral army in the world, and no delusional decision by the UN will change that." Okay, okay. So very recently, NTA, that is National Testing Agency, the national body that undertakes entrance examinations for various science fields. So they held this press conference very recently, and they have categorically stated that there was no paper leak. The integrity of the exam was not compromised, and the recent uproar among the candidates about there were some copies or there was some paper leak, they have been put aside by this press conference. All right. So, addressing media in New Delhi, this. The Director General of NTA, somebody at the head of the National Testing Agency, that is Subodh Kumar Singh, he has said there was no paper leak. The issue concerning the NEET exam is related to 6 centers out of 4,750 centers, and only 1,600 candidates who have lost their time due to wrong distribution of question papers. Okay, so there is also he has also said that there will be some committee that will be organized to look into the claims of the students who think that they may have lost a fair chance to perform. They are definitely given some grace marks, and the committee that is to be formed, a panel, I would say, a panel that is to be formed will be headed by a UPSC chairman. So UPSC is another central body that organizes civil services exam. So let's see what is the outcome of this panel. They have assured the students that the results will not impact their admission process. So we'll find out in the upcoming days. All right. Yes, again. So to cover it again, you'll have to see this. So all set for the swearing in ceremony. Now, one part that I would like to highlight over here is all the Asian subcontinent countries that are historically connected to this land of Bharat. I would say they were, in a way, they functioned as a single political unit. Uh, so these countries, such as Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, all the heads of the state and heads of the government, they are visiting the swearing in ceremony of Prime Minister of Bharat. So this indicates, yes, there is some degree of foreign policy influence that we have on this part of the subcontinent, because attending such a big event at such a short notice, I would say it displays their commitment, and it is a very good example that displays their priorities, I would say, because they know we are their neighbors and the earliest help will come from us. And we have proved that time and again, be it COVID, be it any natural disasters, or be it any crisis at any part of the world. So just to give you a brief example over here, when there was a war ongoing at the border areas of Russia and Ukraine, uh, we sent a Globemaster 130 to those areas, and we lifted out citizens of Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, along with our own citizens. So yeah, they realize what is the importance of the maintaining some cordial and congenial relationships with your neighbors. And same has been reciprocated by us as well. We also have a neighborhood first policy in place. So I would say it's a give and take. It's not something that you know we are dictating. So the people who are going to visit the swearing in ceremony of Prime Minister is the President of Sri Lanka, President of Maldives, Seychelles, an island in the Indian Ocean, Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina. Sheikh Hasina has already arrived yesterday in Delhi. Prime Minister of Mauritius, Nepal, and even Bhutan. So all these people have already arrived in the National Capital Territory to witness the swearing in ceremony. All right. Next up, there was this isn't exactly a headline, but this is something that caught my eye. Was uh, the leader of Zimbabwe, that is the President Emerson Mnangagwa. I hope I'm saying that correctly. The Zimbabwean President Emerson Mnangagwa, on Friday, he described the Russian president, that is Vladimir Putin, as my dear brother. Now, countries don't usually make such kind of statements on the international political arena, but whenever such statements come, they usually indicate some sort of a closed door deal that they might have done, and you never know. All right. So these are the exact words that I'm quoting from his press statement. Zimbabwe considers the Russian Federation as a consistent global ally. Strength lies in our unity, adaptability, and innovation. It is regrettable and unacceptable that the collective West continues to pursue hegemonic tendencies that blatantly violate sovereign equality of nations, justice, and fairness. Okay. So yeah, I mean, Zimbabwe has come out with a heap of praises on the Russian leader. Let's see. Let's watch the relations that Zimbabwe and Russia share. Let's see what comes out in the future. Next up is European Parliament. It will conclude its voting. It might have already concluded its voting by the time you see this video, but yes, you cannot deny that there is definitely a rightward shift in the European politics, because we have seen the post-pandemic era and how have the migrants behaved. Now, to give you some context, okay, whenever a calamity strikes a nation, your ability to function as a singular unit will determine how well you cope up with the repercussions of that calamity. And if the calamity is natural, there is so less that you can do about the calamity, but there is so much more that you can do about how you react to it. So, world across, we have seen, and more specifically in Bharat as well, if the entire country functions as one unit, it becomes easy to deal with the calamities. So, post COVID, we have seen this catharsis in the society of the countries of West Europe. Uh, how have the migrants behaved post pandemic, and very recently in this pro Palestine protesters in the college campuses, no less. These are the spaces where you have to set an example for free speech and whatnot. But if you just go through the videos going on in social media, you will find that how these protesters have managed to single-handedly ruin education for a lot of people. And I'm not talking about community colleges and small colleges. These are Ivy League institutions, Princeton, Oxford, and uh, Princeton, Oxford, Pennsylvania, for that matter. So these are Ivy League schools. So, keeping in mind all of this, the European Parliament is moving towards the right end of the political spectrum. So, close to 450 million citizens have voted, and largely the point of discussion, or the point on which the society is divided, is policy towards Russia. Obviously, the Russia-Ukraine war is going on. Is a war exactly isn't going on. The hysteria surrounding the war is still going on. So yes, people are divided on the foreign policy towards Russia, the industrial rivalry from China. Yes, the entire Europe is unitedly coming together and competing with the mammoth industrial capacities that China has. Even the United States, and climate change and immigration. So these are the core issues on which they will vote. Next up is this was something that should come out as an eye opener for people who are batting for or who are rooting for the Palestinian civilians. So let me make a case. Okay, hear me out. Yesterday or the day before, we came across this headline of Israel rescues four hostages in Gaza raid that Hamas says kills 210 Palestinians. So very recently, Israel it undertook a hostage rescue mission in an area of Al Nusayrat. Okay, and they have managed to rescue and retrieve four hostages. Okay, now let us talk about what does this mean. So they were kidnapped in October 2023. So it has been how many months? November, December, Jan, Feb, March, April, May. Okay. So it's been closely 6 to 7 months since these civilians were kidnapped. And let us assume that they were kept at that very same exact same place for the past at least 3 to 4 months. All right. So did not the civilians know that the hostages are being held captive over here? All right. So let us again assume that the civilians knew that the hostages were kept over there. Okay. So there is usually this argument made that it is only the Hamas that it should be attacked and the civilians should be kept out. There are multiple posts by even United Nations on its Instagram and all the other social media platforms crying foul about civilians should not be harmed during a conflict. Okay, then how do we distinguish who is a civilian and who is a adversary? If they were indeed civilians, they would have informed somebody or the other that the hostages are over here, you can free the hostages, and then finally we can put an end to this war. Okay, but that step was not taken by any of the civilians over there. And now when the state of Israel has undertaken a mission to free its hostages, Hamas has said that it has killed somewhere close to 200 people in a raid that was undertaken to rescue these hostages. So I didn't really know. I'm just working on assumptions, but the narrative from the other side, the narrative from the Palestinian people, does not make sense to me. If you really want an end to the war, I would think that the logical thing to do for the civilians over here, who, let's assume for the sake of argument, aren't complicit with the Hamas militants, then the only thing that they need to do is tell the locations to the right authorities about the hostages. And if the hostages are rescued, the war will be over at that very hour. But as we know, truth is stranger than fiction. We don't know the nuances. But yeah, as a person, as an outsider, as a person sitting thousands of miles away, this is my take on the conflict. So yeah, they retrieved four people uh, from the area of Al Nusairat, and it was under heavy hostility and heavy artillery fire that all these peoples were recovered. There were also a special forces commander who was martyred during the operation. So all the prayers go out to his family. But yes, the photos of the jubilation and the and the relief on their faces to meet their family again, it's really commendable. So yeah, and it is still alleged that there are somewhere close to 100 hostages still captive in Gaza. So let's see, when do the civilians start coming forward with the locations of the hostages? And if they don't, I would say that they should be prepared to face the hostilities of the IDF, because I don't see any other way out. How exactly do you plan on stopping this war? Hamas is not exactly equipped to fight a military, a technologically advanced military such as IDF. So unless it is the civilians who come forward and take up this responsibility of freeing the hostages, I don't see how the hostilities will end. Anybody who tells you otherwise, that Hamas will manage to compel the IDF to capitulate to its demand, I would say that person is daydreaming or has some ulterior motive, to say the least. Okay, so yes, that's about it for today, and we will end this stream over here. Thank you for all the listeners and viewers. I'll see you in the next video.